PodCast.
Here we go. Welcome to the Piece of Music Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Dallas, and today I've got an awesome guest. I've known this dude for a long time. Our paths have crossed, and I've been watching his growth and development on social media from kind of a distance, but I've always admired his style, and it's always great conversation. Please welcome Daveed Holmes.
Hello. My name is Daveed Holmes. On Instagram, it's the Polymath Theory. Do like a lot of cultural photography and things like that. Yeah. So it's Patrick and I. We've known each other since '06. We actually went to massage school together at Chicago School of Massage Therapy / Cortiva. So yeah, it's cool to be here, especially during these times.
So I appreciate it. It is kind of a somber moment. I'm kind of gonna just skip kind of over it because I know everyone's kind of tired of talking about it. But we'll get back around into it a little later. But first, I want to know, man, how did you get into journalism?
Well, man.
Should we go back? Maybe we should go back first, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we graduate from massage therapy school.
Mm-hmm.
And how long are you a massage therapist?
I've been one since.
So you're current?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've since we graduated. I think I got my license at the end of the year in '07. So yeah, I went been doing it for about 13 years. There was a lull where I didn't keep on my license, but I got it back.
Okay.
And I didn't apply for it, because you got to renew it every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I renewed it and still doing it.
So when you renewed, you had let it lapse?
Yeah, I let it lapse.
What did you have to do to renew?
You got to pay some extra money to the Illinois Department.
But you didn't have to take that 512 questions.
No. Because that's if you let your national certification
I'm
lapse.
done, so. Yeah.
But
I let all that lapse. All of it.
Yeah,
It's a wrap.
But I've noticed how it's a gift and a skill where you can help people when somebody can turn their neck or they can walk or they don't have as much back pain. So it's a blessing.
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot in the fact of just what the human body is capable of, what it does, what some of the things are to look for when you're starting to see some early signs of things, and I take that with me. It's not something that I'm totally that was useless. I really do believe that there's great skills involved. For me, I had issues with the actual politics of how the business works. So where were some of the places, you don't have to name them if you don't, but what type of places were you working at?
I was working spas, typical clinics, and then chiropractor offices. Yeah, and that's kind of where it's been past couple of years, working with more of the clinical aspect.
What was the worst experience you've had?
I don't really like to.
I know it's a weird one. I don't mean to jump into that, but there's some weirdos, right?
Yeah.
We can skip over. It's cool. So for me, I enjoyed some time in massage therapy at chiropractors and stuff like that. But some spas, I ran into some things that were less than favorable, and had to get out of some places. Was sick at some places. There was some dirty stuff, and that's unfortunate that stuff exists, and maybe maybe in time some more of that stuff will get cleaned up. But my experience isn't your experience, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of curious from another massage therapist's point of view. What's been the most rewarding thing that's happened, do you think?
When somebody's been in a car accident and they couldn't bend down or rotate, and you work on them and they man, I can move my back.
That's cool.
So I would say that, when it comes, I really like to focus on the help aspect.
Yeah.
The beneficial.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
That's
but
cool, man.
yeah, so helping people get out of car accidents, man, because you know, as a empath, you know, somebody walks in the room, you can kind of feel you got the energy shifts a little bit, and you know, sometimes like I noticed like early in my career, I was more focused just on the tissue, changing the tissue, right? You know, but then you realize this is a human being. They've experiencing things. They're probably scared, and they don't know what's going on, so they're coming to you, so you can help them maybe get an inch better. And I noticed as I got older, it's like, all right, let's focus less on the body and let's focus more on their whole being. And you know, it comes with maturity. You know, sometimes you gotta like, you still recognize what's going on in your life, but at that moment, you kind of gotta set that aside and like, all right, let me focus on who's in front of me, and let me try to help them. You know, and then you gotta kind of watch like, oh, I'm gonna be their choice caregiver, but now it's like you're one part of a system to help somebody get better. And you know, as you get older, you kind of I know to me, I become more empathetic and just really trying to help people out the best as I can. And I know I don't have all the answers or the resources, but I can at least be a small part of it.
Absolutely.
So seeing people get better, that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best things too. Just, I mean, not from a car accident standpoint, but of just like to notice a real change. That's always a plus. You know, it's like this isn't. You know, because there's a lot out there. There's a lot out there that, you know, promises change or promises hope or like promises relief, and when you don't find it through those avenues, you tend to lose kind of a little bit of belief in all of them. And so I'm just glad that I have something like that in my tool belt, you know, to be able to, when I need it, call upon it. Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's awesome.
So okay, so you've continued doing massage therapy, and then you get into photography.
Yeah.
And what was that transition? How did that happen?
All right. So, after massage school, I went to UIC to study kinesiology.
Okay.
And at the time, that was like right after the economy collapsed, and well, there was a lot of things going on with layoffs and stuff like that. And as being honest, I really wasn't in the best place mentally or spiritually. You know, you look back like, man, I didn't realize how depressed I was. But it was then around that time I started really looking to my faith in God. Even like from a seed level, it wasn't really super big, but you know, still having it in the back of my mind. And I really couldn't focus in school, and I was like, why am I I'm forgetful? I wasn't really sleeping well. I had stuff going on at home, and for some strange reason, like in the back of my mind, I was like, see what the art department's talking about. I was like, man, but you know, you go that route, you're not really gonna see like a lot of, as far as the financial aspect, you know, it's like, you know,
it takes a long time. Can you pull the mic just a tad closer to you? Don't, no, not from there.
I'm my fault.
Sorry, yeah, from there. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
So something back in my, I was like, go see what the art department's talking about, and like, you know, I prayed on it, and God was like, go, and I was like, okay, so I went.
Something in you called.
Yeah, because you know, I've always liked art and everything.
Yeah.
But you know, it was like, man, you know, it wasn't like something I studied for. It was just something like, as a kid, I just loved to like draw and illustrate. But then I realized, like, when I was in school, I had a hard time illustrating consistently. So when I switched from kinesiology to art department, you had to go through like multiple classes, and one of the classes that really stuck out to me was like the industrial design and photography, because to me photography and illustration are similar. It's just one, you're kind of, it's more organic, and one you're using a machine, right? But you're still kind of showing the world what you see.
Yeah.
So when I was I was working at a as a trainer, and there was a guy that I was like, man, I need to get a camera. So this guy knew he was involved with film. So I got my, no, it wasn't my first camera. It was my second camera. It was my first SLR. So it was the first Canon digital Rebel. So I got that, and a film camera. And he gave me 2 lenses in a bag, in which the bag I have right now, it's underneath my jacket right now.
Nice.
I want to say I got it in 2011.
Okay.
So I was learning about photography and shooting and composition, and it was really cool. And the design helped change the way I think. So graduate school kind of felt like it was a Pyrrhic victory, like, you graduate, but it was like, it was like I wasn't, it was a culmination of like a lot of things going on, and I was just like, I would just show up. But my buddy came in from Indianapolis, and my sister and my uncle, my aunt, and they support me, so it felt really good. And then that was like May in 2015, and then I remember it was about a month later, my friend, he was like, hey, he invited me to a Halloween party a few years before. He was like, do you remember my roommate? Not my roommate, my neighbor, because he had an apartment in Chicago. He was like, she's a dancer, and she's performing at Raw Chicago. This was like July 1st or 2nd, 2015. He was like, it'd be cool to come out. And I was just wasn't really feeling right. How it's like you get stuck in a funk.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was like, man, just go check it out.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So we went to Navy Pier, and this was saw her perform, saw her dance. My friend, he's always been a good buddy of mine. So I saw her dance and perform, and it was just like amazing. Like I felt a wave over my heart. It was kind of like a healing energy, like, because I've never seen anybody perform that I knew, and that was the first time. So I was seeing her perform.
So you knew her, or
I met her once
met
previously,
her. Okay.
And I met her, and I was like, man, that was beautiful.
Like perform, like on that level, perform in general, like what do you?
Yeah, perform in general.
So you've never been to like a friend's show or like none of that kind of stuff, huh?
Yeah, nobody I knew was like really,
doing anything, music or nothing.
Nah, man. Let me take that back. I've been to concerts, but nobody I knew.
Yeah, I got you.
So I was like, man, this is really cool. And I was telling her, I was like, I want to get more into photography to understand it, and I would like to photograph. And she was like, cool. So that was actually the first time she was performing at Navy Pier for Raw Chicago.
That's cool.
Now, I didn't photograph anything, but I was just experience it. And then a few weeks later, it was her birthday, and for her birthday, she went to go skydiving. So 2015, I was like, I'm going to try some things out, man. So I went skydiving. It was her and a couple other people. And one of the guys was a photographer who's worked with her before. So we got cool. And then he was kind of giving me tips and stuff, and like all the stuff you kind of need.
Okay.
And so from there, like, she would have a show. If I had time off, I would go, do some work.
Okay.
Just learning. And it's a lot that gets involved with it.
Absolutely.
So it was like from like 15 to 16. And then what really changed was in 2017. It was Mother's Day. Doing massage therapy. You got like businesses that where you contract you to go out and do massages and stuff. So it was Mother's Day 2017, and it was this church in like kind of like Lincoln Park, and I was going to do some massage work that day, and I'm giving you the condensed version because I don't want to take up all your time, but so as I get to the church and set up doing like chair massage, I saw there was a lady. She was standing outside. She was young. She had like dark hair. She had like really dark skin, and so I started talking with her. I was like, well, not really dark. She was kind of like like a medium brown, whatnot. And I started talking with her. I noticed she had a bit of an accent, and I was like, if you don't mind me asking, where you from? She was like, oh, I'm from Brazil. I was like, oh, really? She was like, yeah. So what brings y'all here? She's like, I want to check this church out.
All the way from Brazil to check this church out.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, and honestly, that day, I was supposed to meet with my friend to go to the Oriental Institute near University of Chicago. And when I got the call to the massage thing, I was like, hey, I don't want to be like this, but I got a contract, do some work. Can we meet a little later? She's like, yeah, cool, because she lived near University of Chicago. Okay. So I was like, thank God. So I meet, go to the church and meet the woman, and she this is gonna be kind of crazy. This is gonna be a real crazy story how everything fits together. So, and for people's privacy, I won't give names and stuff, but I was like, hey, how long you gonna be in Chicago? She's like, I'm gonna be here probably for about a month or two. So I was like, okay, cool. So I was like, well, I know some cool museums in the city I'd love to show you. She was like, all right, cool. So, did the Mother's Day thing, and was at a church, and it was cool, and left, and we exchanged information. And then about a week or so later, well, after we did the massage thing, I met with my friend, went to Oriental Institute, which is a really cool museum a lot of people don't know about.
What is it?
The Oriental Institute in Chicago. It's on 58th and Woodlawn. Okay. And they have like ancient Egyptian statues there. It's nice. Really, really cool. That's cool. Like seriously, like you got to go. So took my friend, she loved it, and she was like, thank you so much.
Yeah, because it's like everyone knows of like, science industry, all the normal ones that everyone go to in the city, but like there's some gems that people overlook. Yeah,
man. And so then like about a week so later, took the Brazilian woman, and she had somebody, she was staying in a hostel, and there was a guy he was from Nigeria, but he's living in Canada, so they went, and I showed them around, and they loved it. They were like, man, this is awesome. And they was like, thank you for showing me the city. And I was like, I felt like I was like an ambassador of some sort, right? So
welcome to my home.
Right, yeah, man, it was cool. Like that was, if you've never had the experience where you could just show somebody like Chicago, and I'm not gonna say I know all parts of the city, but it was like it's one little thing I could show somebody. So they loved it, and then me and her we planned another event, and she was like, I have a friend. She's staying at a hostel. She's from Colombia. I want to know if she'd come too. I was like, cool. So we went to the Sears Tower, right? I call it Sears Tower. I can't call it well, not Sears Tower. So
now this be the Sears Tower.
Yes. Kind of like Comiskey Park, So we took a picture. It was, I'm hanging out. One woman, she's from Brazil. The other's from Colombia. So this was July 2017, roughly around that time. So me and the Brazilian, we were hanging out again. We went to Reggie's on the south side. We were just talking and stuff like that. So it was good to catch up, and I've really felt that when you can connect with somebody from a different country, different culture, it really teaches you about humanity, especially if somebody, let's say somebody like English is not their first language, and instead of judging them on their English, just try to understand them or try to speak to them in their native language, and you see how
challenging it
yeah,
is.
yeah. And so we hung out again. It was like cool. So now this is when things get interesting. That was like in July. So about a month and a half later, I saw on Facebook one of my friends. She was gonna go to this Brazilian samba event in Logan Square where they had like the samba dancers. And I was like, cool. So me and her, we hung out earlier that summer. We went to go see Santana at Ravinia. So I was like, man, it was cool. So I was like, all right, we're gonna go again. But she had like the day before she couldn't go because like she had something at work. So I was like, oh man. I was like, I don't know anything about Logan Square. I was like, but you want to? I was like, but I want to shoot and learn some things. So I was like, man, just go. Worst case scenario is you get some bad photos, right? So went and I was meeting some people, and this is when things start getting interesting. So I'm seeing the dance, I'm meeting people. I asked them, like, hey, do you mind if I take some photos? They said, no, sure, go ahead. So I took some photos, whatnot, and they like, took the photos of dancers, singers, and everything, and like hearing those drums, like those samba drums, it's like a heartbeat mixed with thunder. And it's like, I mean, it's just it's something else, man. And this group, they have a singer, and she was like, like the main singer, the headline, she's singer dancer, taking photos of her and her husband. And then like afterward, they're like, hey, so what are you gonna, so how we get the pictures? And I was like, it's one thing about being a photographer, like shooting the image, but distributing it is a whole nother animal, right? So I was like, man, you know what? I was like, man, just holler, man. Here's a gift of cultural exchange.
That's nice.
So
photography is a weird one where it's like, I understand that photographers need to get paid, but on the other end, like, if you're taking a picture of me, couldn't I? It's a weird one. Like, shouldn't I be able to use that picture of me?
Yeah, it's weird, man. It's a lot of stuff going on.
I see both ends of the argument, right? Like, as a creator, I'm not saying that it's not your work, right? Like, it's just a weird one, It's a weird one.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
No, it's like that's why you talk to people up front and
yeah, let them know what your deal is,
because
right?
it can be weird, but I mean, that's something I'm still learning. I have a lot to learn, but so I gave a few people some photos or whatnot, and then people started blowing up my messenger in Portuguese.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, because you see all these words like they're clearly not in English. Doesn't look Spanish. I don't know what it is. So I'm like, whoa.
Is there a translator you were able to click or something?
I didn't want to be that guy, but I was like, in English, please. No,
I mean, sometimes they have like in the apps they'll have the button you can just translate it.
No, they resend. He was like, oh, these pictures are amazing. Yeah. Thank you very much. And I was like, I just thought they were decent. So what's interesting is one of the singers, the singer I was telling you about, she was like, these are really good, and she invited me to a parade. It was called Arts in the Dark. It was in 2017. It's a big parade around. It's like about a week or so before Halloween.
Okay.
This was 2017, and so it was hosted by the Brazilian Cultural Center, and so I sent them an email saying, hey, you guys look for a volunteer photographer. And I got a message. It was like, thank you for asking, but ... And I was like, oh, God, dog it, man. So I was like, just read the message. And it said, but we're having a press conference. I want you to go. So it was in the Merchandise Mart 1871. And, went there, caught the train, went up there, and going there. And then this is when things really start changing, right? So remember I told you how I took a picture at the Sears Tower with one from Brazil and one from Colombia.
Yeah.
Well, at this press conference, I met these people. It's a family who they run the Columbia Fest in Chicago. And it was really cool because I met, Lady from Brazilian Cultural Center, and the people from Colombia. So you got Brazil and Colombia right there, right? And so I'm taking photos and just getting an idea what's going on. And I meet the people from Columbia Fest, and like they just came and like hugged me. And in Chicago, like we don't know you, we don't really be hugging you right like that, But they were like, I was like, wow, like it's like, man. So
this is pre-corona. We used to
get
hugs.
It sounds like so Matrix or social distancing,
right?
And I understand.
It, but it is crazy.
Yeah, the way the language.
Wild. Yeah.
So they have a daughter. If you're around Columbus, there's three DJs. They're brothers, and one of the brothers, his daughter. Her got really really cool, and like since like 2017, like it was like October, we've probably talked every single day since then. And I can't say I've talked to anybody like that. She was just real cool, and so we went to the parade, and it was really really cool because it was on Columbus, and it was for about maybe like a mile long, and they shut down the whole street. You saw people with these costumes and these floats. It was crazy. You're just shooting and stuff. And then
is she a photographer as well?
No. Oh. She helps with the Columbia Fest. And,
okay.
And so from that point, I was like, man, okay, cool. So about a week later, my buddy, who we went to personal training school with, he
And you did that before massage therapy?
Yeah. And he asked me if I wanted to go to Mexico with him because he had some stuff going on. But he was like, man, if you go to Mexico, let's do it. I was like, okay, cool. You ain't got to tell me twice. So about a week after the Arts and Dark Parade, I was in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico for about a week during Day of the Dead.
Okay.
So that was really cool.
You had your camera down there?
Yeah, and it was like it's still like I had a lot to learn, but yeah, it was some pretty cool pictures of these sunsets and sunrises, man. You really don't see it in Chicago because unless you live by the lake, you're gonna see all these tall buildings. But there it's just like sand, and it was a cove. So you look to the left, you see like trees and mountains. You look to the right, you see trees and mountains. But it was out near the Pacific Ocean. Mm-hmm. But so I went to Mexico, and then came back. I was like, man, that was really cool. Like that, and in December, at Logan Square, they had like the Miss Samba competition, right? And one of the dancers, she was a bit nervous before the competition, right? And I was just like, I said something I read. I don't know where I read this from, but it was like this old Japanese saying, "Cry in a dojo, laugh on the battlefield." So she had danced and she performed, and she ended up winning the competition, and she was so happy. And I was taking photos from there, and I got like a picture of her like right when she was like finishing like her performance. And when I saw it, like when you're shooting, like you get to a point where like you're shooting, you have your settings lined up, and you have an idea of what it's gonna look like, right?
Yeah.
So instead of looking at the camera, because they're performing a dance, which is maybe
you're just catching a bunch of things. You don't always get a chance to analyze the photo.
You can't really analyze it because if you're trying to analyze, you can miss a move that could be the move.
Yeah.
So I was like, going as fast as I could with that camera, and then like, I go home, and I'm going through these images, and I'll show it to you, man. Let me find it. This was what showed me that I have a skill, and I was like, wow, I was like, man, and it was like really really cool just how it turned out. Just give me a second. I'm gonna show it to you. But yeah, right here. This was it.
Okay. Yeah, it's good background lighting, like good exposure, like it's good. It's a good photo.
Oh, thank you. So
if you send that to me, I'll include it in the podcast.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you get that, man, and just shooting that, and I was like, when I really saw that, I had a skill, and I was working at a place in Homewood doing like clinical massage therapy, and one day I just went to go grab something to eat, see what the restaurants around, and then there was a lady who was a waitress there. And I know she had a bit of accent. I was like, if you mind me asking where you from, she's like, I'm from Brazil. I was like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, I just went to I just saw some Brazilian dancers and stuff, and I showed her the picture. Oh yeah, I know them. They're gonna sing in my wedding. I was like, okay, this is
the universe just putting a bunch of pieces in.
Yeah, and now this is where it gets real weird. So, I was like, all right, cool. So I started getting involved with like the Brazilian Colombian community, right? And I don't speak Spanish or Portuguese. I'm just a light skinned black dude. I guess I blend in. So, that April, the singer, she had a birthday party up on the north at this it was like a indoor soccer place on the north side, and there was like a lot of people there, and there was this one woman, she was singing, and she was like dancing and stuff, and I was taking pictures, and she was like I was like, I was seeing the photos, and she's like, oh, I love them. She was like, they're really, really good. And she was like, I used to be a model in Brazil, and like she's like a very beautiful woman, but she's really, really sweet. Like they, like she's just a really sweet person. So she's like, if you ever need a fake model, let me know. I was like, I'm gonna hold you to that. So fast forward, it's like in August, early August, and we were gonna go to Montrose Beach to do like a beach photo shoot, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, whatever, went up there, but then it started raining. So it was raining, and she's like, what are you gonna do? I was like, let's use to our advantage. So when we got there, it stopped raining, and we were shooting, and they turned out well. Just still learning, because every type of environment, lighting, weather, it changes how you shoot it.
It's the same thing with recording.
Yeah,
video or audio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we shoot. She really liked it, and then that day she was like, after we got done, she's like, she told me she was engaged. She was getting married like in a year, and then she was like, yeah, I'm gonna be an old woman soon. I was like, well, what are you gonna be? She was like, I'm gonna be 30. I was like, when's your birthday? Me and her have the same birthday. Now this was gonna get really, really, really weird. She like, thank you so much. I love the, I showed her the photo. She loved them. This is really cool. Like, and she was like, one of my friends is getting married at the in downtown, mm-hmm. right? The governor's office, I guess that's where it's at, And she was like, I told her to follow you on Instagram. So I looked at her and followed Instagram. Now this is where it gets weird. This woman, her friend, was friends with the woman who went to that church that I met. The first when I did the massage thing, I was like, "This is back around." Yeah. And so, went there, did the photos for them, and this is when it also gets weird. So they end up having a baby, and I did the photos for them or the baby, and then a woman, we did the beach photo shoot. She got married, and that was like the first like wedding I shot. So okay. I was like, man, like it was just really cool.
It's like step by step, like
yeah, and none of it was planned. But it was cool, man, because you seeing people have children, getting married. You can understand a bit of culture, and if somebody like me who's like that kind of foreign to the culture, you see some similarities. And what was really cool was, like my friend whose family, they run Columbia Fest. She would just invite me, hey, if there's a show here, if you want to shoot, you're free to do so. So like, okay, cool. So I learned backstage photography, stage photography, and like Ghostbusters, you never cross the streams. You don't walk in front of the audience. You just walk to the side or behind them. It's like you want your work seen, not yourself.
Yeah.
So, her father had they had Columbia Fest, and that was the first time I learned, like stage photography. So then about a week later, they had a party because it was his birthday. He's like, come on through. So I came through, took some photos of the family, you know, mothers, met aunts. Like it was probably like 50, 60 people there.
So is this like a thing you're doing for a friend, or is this something he's hiring you for?
He just said, if you want to come do something, do it. I was like, all right, cool.
So you were just basically for the experience at this point. Yeah. Okay.
So he was like, man, thank you so much, man. He was like, he was like, get your passport ready. You're gonna go to Colombia. Right, so I was like, cool, but sometimes people say stuff.
But you don't need a passport for Mexico?
Yes, you do. Yes.
You do. Yeah. So you already had one?
Yeah, I got. Yeah, when my boy told me we were going to Mexico, I got my passport expedited and express. I got it within like 7-8 days.
Oh, you can get it that fast, huh?
Yeah, man.
How much did it cost?
It's probably like $2 something. It was like right when because you had to get it express and expedited.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't want to wait 4 to 6 weeks. So this was like in July of 2018 when he was like, "You're going to Colombia." So me and her, we still hang out, being around the family, and it was like, they had like this house, and just going there, just hanging out, meeting people, and just learning stuff. So come March 2019, last year, we went to Colombia, and it was there for 10 days, and we were there during Carnival. Okay. And one thing about the town is Barranquilla, that's where Shakira's from.
Okay.
And they have the second largest carnival celebration in the world after Rio.
Okay.
So seeing that was really cool, understanding the culture. And I thought that was really cool how just a curiosity led to that.
Yeah.
So and I really saw how God used that experience being down Colombia, and it's some really good things are happening. But it was very interesting, man. This is weird because I'm not used to really talking about myself like that, but it was a really cool experience, and we're all good now, and I'm just like, all right, I want to learn. I want to see what's next.
Yeah. Yeah. So you go from photography now into journalism.
Yeah, man. So after I came from Colombia, I got invited to this like an event, and I met somebody there, and she does like a lot of work with events and like journalism and stuff like that. And so, she was like, "Hey, you gonna come here?" I was like, "Okay, cool." Every time someone asks me or something, I pray about it first. Usually, I get to go. Just go. Don't worry, just go. Well, okay, all right. I trust you. You're smarter than I am, and you know more, so I'm gonna trust you. So I went, and then we go to a couple of events and everything. So in the meeting, she introduced me to a gentleman who I didn't know this at the time. But he's the CEO of a magazine. It's like a digital magazine. So I was, I would do some stuff and end up getting a press pass. It's for Guardian Liberty Voice. And so, and I do have experience doing like a little bit of writing through this app called The Culture Trip. I wrote like 3 articles about stuff in Chicago.
Okay.
So they are published. It was cool seeing something that you had in your head and experience you seen online.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, it was a few weeks ago, she got me a press pass, and I was like, okay, cool. So, my thing, what I really want to do with it, especially now, and I know you can relate, is that as a musician or somebody who's involved with events now, Chicago, it's like everything's shut down. And, we hear about essential versus non-essential work. Mm-hmm. And I really hope that doesn't lead to another class separation. You're essential. Well, I'm essential.
Right?
You're not.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Because, like, it can happen.
Yeah.
And
this is a weird time where anything can happen. It's like everything's in the air, and how the pieces fall, it's like nobody knows how that's going to work out yet.
And, the thing is, a lot of people in the music and events industry are hurting, and of course, the people on the front lines, the nurses, the healthcare workers, the truck drivers, we know they're essential.
Mm-hmm.
We know there. I mean, when you're caring for somebody, I'm a massage therapist. You know but I can't compare that to a nurse or some being in an ICU emergency room where they're short staffed, they don't have proper equipment, but they're still going to work and they're caring for dozens and hundreds of people a day. So shout out to the nurses, healthcare workers. If you know anybody who's a nurse, tell them that they are doing some great work. They're doing God's work, and
we appreciate you very much.
Yeah, for real. And like people in the military, first responders, you guys are just doing an amazing job. We thank you, and I really pray that you guys are protected and safe. But like as we're having this social distancing, I don't know about you, but it just feels weird because I know after work I'll usually go visit my uncle, my aunt, right? And they're older. Now I can't do that. And like we used to spend time, it's like, you feel that loss. And, as an artist, if we can express ourselves artistically in groups, that has like I think it has a negative effect on us.
I believe that. Just as a musician, like I'm a solo musician, but I've worked with other people. And so, like, when you're by yourself, there's a very different energy than if you got a couple people with you. Like, and it could be better or worse. I mean, just depending upon the people. But there's definitely more there of some kind of energy. Yeah.
And yeah, man. So again, I just want to thank the nurses first. There's another group. See, people work in the grocery stores, people stocking the shelves. Like, if you would think jobs that people wouldn't consider essential,
but now are like big jobs. Like, you need that because we need that. Like, especially when you see how like the whole thing went down with like toilet paper and like I haven't been able to find rubbing alcohol in a month.
Right.
Like, since before all of the thing really dropped. So it's like, these people are definitely essential, and the distribution teams and it's an interesting time because it kind of puts some things, it obviously resets, but it puts things into perspective a little bit better, and makes you thankful for what you do have, and kind of think of the future in like terms of like, what do I need if like, because we've all seen like what happened in Katrina and when the earthquakes happen and disasters around the world. I feel like since like 9/11 we've seen this over and over and over again, and most of us aren't prepared. There was a statistic that like 60% of Americans don't have $500 in the bank. So it's like, with that kind of statistic right now, we're not working. What are those people doing?
Yeah, man. And like, you look at truck drivers, sanitation workers, people working the register at Jewel or Target, and I don't mean to throw them out, but your local grocery store. I mean, those people are essential. Sanitation workers. I mean, you just see, it's like a domino effect, and it's you try not to get depressed, man, because it's not just a Chicago thing. It's not just a New York thing. It's not just a U.S. thing. It's a global thing. And I really hope that this shows that we're very similar. Because honestly, what led me to having like, I guess, a sensitivity towards Latin America was, and I don't want to get political here because you saw like a lot of stuff, but when Puerto Rico got hit with the hurricane in like, Texas, and there was like a different response, right? Between like how what happened with Texas and what happened in Puerto Rico, and there was earthquakes in Mexico, and I'm like, dang, man, like places getting hit with earthquakes and hurricanes. And it's like,
and nobody does really anything. It's just this is what it is there. You know what I mean? And it's like, here we have all this relief, but like, what happens over there?
Yeah, man. Because we're getting it from we're getting it from the news media, and I'm not trying to knock the media because they
it's hard though. It's hard to trust because there's a lot of not true. There's a lot of fake news, you know, as I'd hate to say that word, but there really is a lot of discredible sources, so it's hard to filter through them and figure out which ones you can put stock in. And yeah, I mean, and even the ones that are, like you said, they're filtered, so like you only get a very small percentage of what they're allowed to put through the waves, and there's so much more that's going on over there that we don't have a clue about.
Yeah, man, and like I remember I was out with a friend. This was like, I want to say it's probably like September, October of 2017. That's like right around Hurricane Maria came, and I was hanging out with a friend, and we were at at like a bar, you know, and having fun, dancing and stuff, and it's funny stuff you can't do now. It's like you sound like back in my day, you know, you could actually
used to go to the bar.
Yeah, you could hang out with somebody, but there was this lady dancers for a bachelorette party
when we had 10 or more people.
Really, man. And like, you know, and there was a lady dancing. She was having the time of her life because her friend was getting married, and so friend I was hanging out with, and the bride's friend, come to find they're from like the same part in Florida, and she's like, yeah, I'm just out here just help my friend, but when I go back home, my living room is under 4 feet of water. And I'm like, this woman's I'm like, I can't imagine having a living 4 feet of water, but she was still
helping someone else.
Yeah, she was helping, and she wasn't letting it get her down.
Wow.
But
that's a real challenge.
Yeah, man. And I'm like, man, I had to tip my hat to her. And you know, when you know people from Puerto Rico, and just regardless of politics, you have somebody that's hurting, right? Their home has been destroyed, or they know people who unfortunately passed away, and just showing care to another human being, especially now, like, just you start seeing your political side, and then it really doesn't matter if you don't have food or water.
Like, none of that, all that's out the window.
Yeah.
If you can't eat.
Yeah.
You can't survive. So, yeah, that's one of the interesting ones about, like, the gun control topic. Like, since all this has gone down, I've heard nothing of it. You know what I mean? Everyone's rushing out because they don't know it. There's an uncertainty, and everyone wants to protect themselves.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's a scary time we're living in. It really is, because, like we've said before, we don't know which way it's going to roll, you know, so.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm going to be optimistic and say, like, we're going to recover from this. And, you know, I don't have all the facts or the answers, so I'm not going to try to say that, you know. But I really just, as somebody who believes in God, who has faith, I just really believe that you see, like, you look on the news, you see, like, a lot of people just caring, send, you know, people in their neighborhoods, check on their neighbors, getting food, supplies. You're seeing some companies who, even before they were prompted, they were like sending out supplies to the nurses, and things like that. So I think that's really, really cool. I think it was some shoe companies. They're making masks now.
Yeah, I've heard of several companies doing things that are, like I think liquor companies are making hand sanitizer, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that's
somebody. Hey, can we get like an American company that is local to make some rubbing alcohol? Because I've been looking for a month and can't find any.
Yeah, man. I'm sure somebody is thinking of that, or they're doing, or they're processing.
In the process of getting that. Yeah, I'm sure.
And I think that's really cool when people are compassionate, because when you're compassionate towards people who don't have anything, who have like a hardship, it really, you know, like, all right, so I'm black, I'm a African American, and
I couldn't tell.
Yes, and I mean, and you know, you're I know you have Native American too.
A little bit, but I mean, as I've gotten older, it's probably so little that I'm white. You know what I mean?
So I'm a black guy, and you're a white guy, right? But we're right now, we're having a conversation about life, and we're connecting. So it's like we do have a cultural back. Each of us have a cultural background that we're bringing to the table, but it's not. It's not the main thing. It's that we're two people who are friends who started, massage school together, and some time later we reconnect as artists, and we're just talking about what's going on with the world. And I mean, man, like, nobody's in school. People work from home, and like the musicians. Like I know, since I've 2016, 16. I've met a lot of musicians, and nobody's working.
Mm-mm.
And I'm like, and this was the year Chicago Music, which it was going to kick off, I think, a 21-day straight like festival. It was going to start with like the house music fest and the blues fest and the gospel fest. It was like those are the three main things, but it was going to showcase local talent in Chicago. And it's like, Corona hits and everything shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
because it's not just musicians; it's all the people that come with that. It's man. the stage in hand.
Yes.
It's the bartenders.
Yes.
It's the the just about everyone. Like, and now like Tennessee shut down too. My mom's out there, so she's at like a small restaurant. Basically, well, it's like a chain, but like they're pretty much closed now too. Like, it's like food places. You know what I mean? You can't go in to eat nowhere. Like,
I went to on the south side. I went to like a Mexican joint, and like all the chairs. I used to go there like on my break and talk with people and stuff, and practice really broken Spanish. but it's like it was weird, man, because the energy in there changed.
Oh yeah.
And man, Tennessee, Nashville, man, like New Orleans, New York. It's like, man, like the arts have gotten hit, and usually if you look at when it comes to budgets, the arts get cut first. But like I remember, I saw my first concert. I saw Maxwell at the Horseshoe Casino, and at that time I was, I want to go see everybody who I've ever liked as a kid. So I've seen Maxwell, seen Nas, seen Jay-Z, saw Common, and I'm wearing a D'Angelo shirt now from Black Messiah, and this is gonna be like a cool story. So it was like, so after I went skydiving in 2015, September 3rd, 2015, I saw Lenny Kravitz at Ravinia, and I went in high school. I wanted to be three people. I wanted to be Lenny Kravitz, I wanted to be D'Angelo, I wanted to be Maxwell. I combined into one, right? Lenny Kravitz, he had like, he was the rocker. D'Angelo, he had like kind of like the moody stuff going on, and Max was like the soul singer with the falsetto, and I went to like combine, all three of those. So I saw Lenny Kravitz, 2015 at Ravinia. That was a Thursday. I was like, man, this was cool. Then that Saturday was at North Coast Music Fest. So the Roots were there and D'Angelo.
Oh,
so in the week I saw Lenny Kravitz, the Roots, and D'Angelo.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it was really cool. And interesting, when Lenny Kravitz played, he had Adra Day open for him, right? It was back in 2015, and she is on. Have you heard of Gary Clark Jr.?
Yes,
dude.
He's next level.
Dude, I saw him twice, man, and actually, I saw him at the Blues Fest in 2017. And this dude comes on, because I would hear people say Gary Clark Jr., Gary Clark Jr. I'm like, man, who is this dude? Well, there was Alicia Keys had a song Fire We Make with Maxwell. So Alicia Keys, I loved, and Maxwell, that's like my favorite art. And then on that song, there was like this guitar solo. I was like, man, that guitar solo is pretty bad.
And now that you know it's who it is, you can't mistake it. It's like, that's who that is.
Yeah, and then it's when I saw him at the Blue, I heard his album. I was like, I know dude's good, but I want to see him live, because that's the real barometer.
Yeah.
This dude just destroyed it. And, so when you go to a concert as a concert goer, your main thing is you want to see the headliner, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when the past couple years, I've been doing like some stuff where behind the scenes. So you have a headliner comes in, especially at these fests, there might be 30 acts who are indie acts, right? But since you have this headliner, because he headlined the last day of the Blues Fest, since you have this headliner, people are, okay, I'm gonna go to see Gary Clark Jr., but that's towards the end of the night. But you might go see somebody at 1:00 who's like, this person's dope. So that's how they get exposure.
Yeah.
So, with what's going on Corona, so you have a headliner. No, there's no headliners, no local acts, no bartenders, no food vendors.
Yeah.
The stage hands. Those are you look at these stages and people think you snap your fingers and the stage is constructed.
No, and they get paid probably like better than a lot of the opening acts. You know what I mean? Like, because they have a steady gig. You know what I mean?
Well, they did.
They did. Obviously, they don't now, but they're on a position where I think a lot of them can get unemployment, and there's other relief. I think for some of them, like a lot of the musicians, especially the struggling ones, and comedians, and lower, not so successful entertainers, they're just like the wait staff. We're all just kind of shit out of luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It hurts, man, because like there's some venues, man, like that like are struggling. Some really cool venues in
They were
Chicago.
already struggling. Like the Elbow Room's already been struggling.
Really?
Like, will this put a nail in the coffin? I heard it online.
Okay.
Who knows? It could be fake.
Man,
you know what I mean? I hope not. I hope that the Elbow Room is around for many, many more years, because they've given me quite a few opportunities to do shows and stuff there.
That's
and
awesome.
They're an awesome place, man.
I was actually my friend, she actually performed at the Elbow Room. I think it's like it's up. It's kind of on the north side a little bit, right? Yeah. So performed there because they perform in the basement.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's like it's a basement. There's a couple different places that you can perform, but the basement is the main room. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like there's a spot. Subterranean. There's a real cool place, Dorian's.
Dorian's I've not heard of.
Oh, so it's like a jazz spot, man. It's really cool. I've seen this artist. His name is Isaiah Collier in The Chosen Few.
It's like a smaller venue.
Yeah. It's real small, but like the lighting is real. It's really, really. It's very intimate.
Yeah.
And that's one thing like about like those jazz or blues spots when they're real intimate. Oh, speaking of. When I saw Gary Clark Jr., I met some people at the concert, right? And they was like, "Hey, let's go check out." Well, gotta rewind. I had a little too much to drink the night before, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go. I was like, "But if you had a friend who went to the concert, enjoyed it, and said you loved it, would you regret it?" I was like, "Yeah, I'd regret it." So I went there, sobered up, and got there just in time to see Gary Clark Jr. perform. And then there were some people I met up there, and I was like, "Hey, afterward, let's go to Buddy Guy's bar, Legend, when South Loop." So the Blues Fest was in Millennium Park. So we went there, and there was a lady at the door. She was like, "Buddy Guy, he's playing, so it's $20 to get in." So I was like, "Okay, I'll go see a blues legend." So it was like halfway through a set, and I was like, "Man, this is really cool." And there was a woman who was working the door. Well, she was working like a table, and I was like, "Man, why does she look familiar?" And I was like, "Hey, my name's Daveed. Show my name's Sean." I was like, she used to rap with like Ludacris, Timbaland, Magoo.
Oh, Shauna.
Yeah. So I was like, "Man, this is really cool." And then like seeing Gary Clark Jr. and I actually shook Buddy Guy's hand.
That's dope.
So I was like, if I didn't go, then I would have missed out on all that.
All that, yeah.
So say all that, man, because those experiences, of going to those concerts, seeing your favorite artists that you grew up with, that you relate with. Like, think about it, an artist from another side of the country or the world made a song that just touched your heart.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to listen to it on your headphones or to have it play in the background, but when you see it and you hear the changes when they're doing it live, I mean, it's an emotional thing. And, to not have that experience, I'm like, man, it's just difficult.
Experiences are something that they're worth more than people give credit for. Like traveling, shows, those type of things. They give you perspective on life that's you're not gonna find at your house. You've got to get out and you've got to experience life and it opens new avenues. It opens new pathways, new friendships, all of that stuff. Like I remember I would take the train to Tennessee a lot to visit my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and it never fails. There's always somebody you get into a conversation with,
Mm-hmm.
and like the last time I went, I talked to this couple from I believe they're from Ireland,
Mm-hmm.
and they showed me some music I had never heard, and like, you know what I mean, and like just the conversation, you leave like, oh wow, I've learned something about another culture that's like
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have known had I not just gotten outside of myself and talked to people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, man. So it's funny you say, like, so when I was in Colombia, we went to 3 places. Went to Barranquilla, Santa Marta, and Cartagena. And, you know, we went, so there's a musical style in like the coast of Colombia called champeta, which is like, it's like, has like African roots, I think from like Senegal. And there's this guy's name is Charlie King. He's known as like the mayor of Cartagena. So my friend's family, they like know him, right? Okay. And so we were walking Cartagena, and random people was coming up to, hey Charlie, like you thought he was like Elvis or something, and like, having that experience. And then for this past in July, he was at Columbia Fest. So it was one thing to see somebody on 2 different continents. Like that was the first time I had that experience where like it wasn't somebody I was with, but somebody who I knew. I saw him in Chicago, and I saw him in Cartagena, and like you learn something new. And I guess during the Super Bowl, because Shakira's from Barranquilla, she was like kind of bringing some of that champeta to 100 million people.
Yeah,
who watched the Super Bowl.
I find it such an interesting time also because like you've got one side of the thing is talking about building some fucking wall, right? Like, and then you've got another side of the culture that's like embracing reggaeton and embracing the Latin America culture more than ever. Like you hear more of that infused with the music than ever before. And like I don't feel about it one way or the other. I really enjoy some of the rhythms and stuff. Even some of the stuff that I don't understand. Like I find it fascinating. You know? But it's interesting how where it's such polar opposites at this point within some of the country. Like one place is worried about keeping everyone south of the border out, and then another people are like, anyone with diversity and culture, like, keep coming because we need that to grow and evolve as people. It's just an interesting time. Like there's so much that has been going on this last year last few years that I'm like, it almost feels like fake. Like you were saying, like the Matrix. Like it does feel a little bit like who turned the simulation on and who's just changing the chaos dial. Like
yeah. I remember, and again, not to get too political, like, because I can understand both aspects of as a state or a country protecting your border, and I can understand that, especially when you have people who work in the military and they have a base and they have to patrol the border. Because let's just say, like, because there's things, what if somebody had a disease that you couldn't, especially now, and like there weren't any like checks, so I can understand that. But as for a safety reason, but to like think that everyone trying to come here isn't a bad person, and not to say that that's what it is, but I just think there should be a healthy balance, because depending on where you are, people lock their doors at night, and it's not that they're fearful, it's just protection.
Better to be safe than sorry. It's like there's a quote, I can't remember who says it, but it's like, if you want peace, prepare for war. Like you don't want, like, most normal people I don't think want to go to war, but it's like you have to be able to somehow protect what's yours. And I mean, there's a fine line of what is yours, but that's a whole nother discussion. For now, it's just like, this is kind of this battle, and I understand it, like, with the terms of, like, if there's I mean, because it's crazy, like, there's some real crazy stuff going on in Mexico. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so I'm not saying that nothing should happen. You know what I mean? It's just when you look at walls, traditionally they do bad things. Like those type of walls. You know what I mean? Like you look at the Wall of China, like you look at like the Berlin Wall, like those weren't for good purposes. You know what I mean? Like in the long run, one side got starved out.
Yeah. Man, yeah, what was it? Yeah, man. You know, so there's a place in Chicago. I forgot the name. It's like I forgot the name of it. It's like a speakeasy where you go in, you say a certain word, you catch an elevator, you go down. It's a bar. I forgot the name of it. Yeah, and there's actually a piece of the Berlin Wall in that place.
That's crazy.
I don't.
How much of that is around right now, still open?
Yeah, man, dude, I don't know, man.
Like the 20s, like Prohibition era, like people are in basements with blackout curtains.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Man, it's just, man, like, you know, I remember as a kid, you know, when I thought 2020, I'm thinking we're gonna have flying cars.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna be robots and cyborgs.
Instead we got viruses. Can't leave the house.
People fighting over toilet paper. It's like I don't want this future. You know.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And like I was yeah, I don't know. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's man, it's interesting. I just really hope, man, that, you know, leaders in charge do what's best for the citizens of the country, man, because, you know, you can argue the case or against it till your head turns blue, but ultimately, man, it's just like, all right, I'm not in charge of that, so no matter what I say, really probably isn't going to affect it.
Yeah.
But I just really hope that, especially with the passage of this stimulus bill, that it affects the people, you know, who got the small businesses, who people can provide for their families.
The people that are pretty much living check to check, that are like panicking right now.
Yeah, so I really hope it affects, like, you know, people like us, man, because, you know, we have an opportunity today to just talk about what we're experiencing, and it's not about I have all the answers or you're wrong. It's just like, man, this is what we're experiencing. And I just really hope that in like maybe 3 months, or, you know, that the love of compassion people are showing out toward each other actually grows. Like, all right, let's not wait till something bad happens to help somebody out, right? Let's help people out before it gets bad. And on a personal level, where it's like I'm choosing to help somebody out, to use the little resource I have to help somebody out. Because, you know, you can wait all day for them to pass a law, but
someone gets starved to death by that time.
I'm just like, look at the Civil Rights Act. Like, all right, so they passed the law, but there was regular people who went out there.
Yeah, and it's like, how many lives until they get it together? So anyway, we'll wrap this up. What do you got in the notebook?
Man, there was just I want to start writing. I just brought a notebook. It actually doesn't have anything in it, but today I want to just start writing again, because I used to write a lot. Like, I would write like poetry, just how I feel. And, you know, I got a good friend of mine. He just sent me an email talking about he was writing about his life in the past couple of days. And I was like, you know, I just want to start writing about that, like, you know, about goals and just how I feel. So, like, in maybe 3-6 months, or maybe a year, 5 years, I can go back, like, I know how I was feeling on a certain day. So, like, when I leave here, I just want to write about, you know, this opportunity, because I've never been on a podcast before, and like seeing the setup, and, you know, just reconnecting, and just like, I mean, I'll be honest, I really kind of down lately, you know, and like I'm trying not to be that way, because I'm not a depressed person.
I've always known of you, you know, obviously we have a limited interaction, but I've always got a very jovial, like
Yeah.
bubbly personality feel from you.
Yeah.
And I've always really enjoyed our conversations because of that. It's like even when I first started, I'm like going into some of my negatives of massage therapy, and you're like hesitant to go that route, and I appreciate and respect that, because it's like, get the negativity away, like let's focus on something better. And that's how I've seen you. And so I mean, I feel you as far as like the whole country is kind of depressed right now. We're just kind of in a funk, right? Like we don't know what's going to happen or where to go or even what to do. And maybe there's other things going on in your life too that are beyond that, you know. But these type of interactions are still important, I think, because they help you to like kind of put it back in perspective, and also like have just a regular conversation that's like, you know, we're not like debating, we're not,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, that's good.
going back and forth about it, like saying what you don't appreciate or what you don't agree on, or what, you know. It's just like, hey, like this is where it's at, and like I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate you being on and talking to me, man. And man, it's so you're kind of like in middle now with the Guardian because of how everything's kind of shut down. I'm assuming.
Well, it's online, man, and
so you can continue writing and doing stuff for that if it gets published.
Cause I got like that's one thing I want to write about was okay, so we all know, and I don't even want to say the name of, you know, the, you know, what's going on in the world, because I want to focus on something that's just a little better. But I want to focus on how are musicians, like how can we like, how can musicians, artists, how can we grow from this? Because if you go to Google right now and you look up, you search, you know, the C word, you're probably going to find all this stuff. You're going to hear about all these depressing things. And I'm like, if we keep focusing solely on that, it's going to grow, and it's going to be too much for us, because like no one person can deal with that. So I'm like, all right, I know people who are involved in the music industry and the event space. It's like, and I have an outlet to write about something that's going on. So I want to use that, just my experience, what I'm seeing from what I've heard, as a way to like maybe give some hope. You know, write about hope. That's what I'm gonna write about, is hope. Because man, you know, I mean, if you just keep focused on the tallies and the numbers, it'll just weigh down. I'll be honest, it was weighing me down. But I was like, you know what? Get up, exercise, get on this podcast.
This comes back to massage therapy, personal training, fitness, mental health, all of this, right? Like, because you're not the only person who's like, okay, like I know personally a handful of people who they've just been glued to the TV, and it's affecting their mental health. And so, you know, to be able to like, I like ran on the treadmill for like an hour the other day, just to like, or not an hour, for like a mile the other day, and I haven't ran in a long time. And it just felt so good. You know, it's like, oh yeah, we're still alive right now. Like, so also we didn't even get in. There's so much we don't have time to get into. But so I ran the marathon 2010, and now here in 2020, now if God willing, you're trying to run the marathon.
Yeah.
What inspired you to do that?
A friend of mine, training her, and she was like, hey, you want to run the marathon? I'm like, you know, but it's for the National Kidney Foundation, and she knows somebody who suffers from kidney disease, and I know somebody as well.
Yeah, so do I.
So I was thinking, all right, this is a big challenge. So I was like, all right, let's go for it. You know, and most I've ever ran was like 10 miles. And I know it's possible. That's just when the training, you know, and to do something that hard that can benefit somebody else, Because it's not like you run the marathon. Oh well, I'm gonna get this check or whatnot. It's like you're running it just to help somebody.
Yeah, I ran for American Cancer Society and raised money for them, and like if I hadn't done that, I don't know if I would have finished.
Yeah.
There was a certain level of like responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was beyond that too. There was like other issues, like my grandma had passed, so like I literally was like crying during the marathon, like talking to my grandma. Like it was crazy. It was a crazy experience, but like having finished that gives you a new perspective on life and like what you're capable of. And like finishing anything, like people I think take the finishing of projects for granted, because if you can work out, like my last album, I meant to grab a copy and put it on display, Find My Way. It took me like 6 years to make that album.
Oh wow.
So like when you finally finish a project of that magnitude, you're like there's a sense of relief, accomplishment of like, oh, I can do what I set out to do.
Yeah.
And I got that very much from the marathon as well. Like, even though, like, at the end of the day, I posted up on the recliner and couldn't get up. I had to crawl to bed. It was rough, man.
Yeah, that's yeah, man, and that's the thing, like, now, like, all right, getting up, like, especially now, so a lot of people working from home, and okay, do some, like, making up your bed, drink some tea, meditating, cleaning, doing some exercises, and it's like, those little things do add up. And that's one thing I'm learning. It's like, all right, you always want to have a big goal in mind, but like have like small daily tasks, where it's like
you need little wins.
Yeah, man, dude, like it's like it's like let me just get like if you add up the little wins, and I think that's what it's really about. I mean, of course you get a big one, celebrate. And I think that's another thing, man, like going back to when I graduated college, I didn't I celebrated, but I was like, now if I do, I would celebrate it more, because someone set out to do and I accomplished it. Then just what sprung off of that, well, get involved with journalism, get involved with photography. It was nothing I really planned to do. It was just like I was just gonna go to this event and that was gonna be it. But like, and then just meeting people and like, I'm looking at your studio and I'm looking at all this gear, man, and like it probably started with just one machine. Like
this is probably the first thing I got.
Wow.
Was this keyboard right here.
Wow.
And it's funny because just this year, or maybe last year, I finally figured out how to hook it up to MIDI.
Oh wow.
And so like I knew it could do it, but there was driver stuff and I was never good at all that stuff. And like I finally figured out how to do it, and so like now I hear like I got it when I was like 18, so like half my life ago, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like we were talking before the podcast started about the 4-track I used to carry around with me. I used to have this little bitty portable 4-track, and that's how I recorded my first. Like I don't remember exactly where I was at when we met, but behind you there's Instrumental Flowetry 1, 2, and then Illinois Music next to it. And it was right around that time. Like I hadn't really released an album online or nothing like that yet. But I had already started doing instrumentals. I had already started rapping. I had already started like getting into that stuff. And it's just continued to grow from doing a lot of my own artwork and and I've had other people help, like my sisters taking some photos and done a little bit of stuff. That's the 4-track right there.
Yep,
so that's it. 4-track days.
Yeah, man, and that's real cool because you see how it built. And I remember like, I was dating somebody at the time. She got me a Nikon camera, and it was like digital camera, and like, understanding it. And I mean, the same principles apply whether using that or a larger camera. It's just your larger cameras, it becomes more sophisticated. But if you got good light,
you get a good megapixel camera and good lighting.
Honestly, if you have really good lighting,
you don't even need a good megapixel camera. Huh?
Yeah, man. I mean, the light. So I look back at that camera, and I probably have about like maybe about 4 or 5 or 6. And like honestly, with the smartphones, you could take some amazing photos. So you need to see how you build, and the main thing is the people you meet along the way. Like I like to look at like Star Wars, Luke. You could say he was probably going to die on Tatooine as a salt trader or whatever. but he met somebody. Well, he got the droids, right, who had a message about somebody who knew his dad, right? Mm-hmm. So he started learning about that. Then he learned about the Jedis. He learned that he's a good pilot, and then these
strings that kind of pull you in these different directions that you could never.
Yeah, it's not like you snap your fingers like, okay, I'm gonna do this. It's like it happened step by step, and I'm just thankful for everybody who I got to build a relationship with this, photography, because especially it wasn't like I was going to people I knew. These people I didn't know, mm-hmm. right? And it'd be from a different culture. So sometimes I'm in a room and people are speaking Spanish or Portuguese,
and you don't understand anybody.
And the crazy thing is, I'm a U.S. citizen. I was born here, right? But sometimes I feel like a foreigner when I'm in a room and everyone's speaking a different language.
Huh.
So
I could see that. Yeah.
But it's a wonderful experience because you get to see how they may feel. Mm-hmm. Let's say they're going to a bank or going to a hospital and they don't speak English. So I know how it feels when not to speak the language, and that's when maybe now with smartphones you can pull it out, Google Translate. Yeah. I mean, it may sound horrible, but like you at least make an attempt. You can
kind of understand, right? Yeah. It's interesting, like, because I grew up in an area that was probably, it was a mixed area, but it was probably heavier towards the Latin community, mm-hmm. and when I would go to like they would have parties and stuff, and mm-hmm. And you would go, and I'd be like the only white boy there, you know what I mean? And like they're just all speaking Spanish, and like maybe someone would come over and like say a couple words in English to you to make you not feel out of place or something, Mm-hmm. But it's interesting. You would just sit back and just kind of absorb the culture, mm-hmm. and it's definitely in my roots. Like you mm-hmm. know, I'm thankful for those opportunities.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's beautiful, man. Because I think if we just stay around our own people, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but there's like this world out here where you can like learn so much.
You can grow and evolve to be a much smarter and more evolved. I think just an evolved person. Mm-hmm. Like I know that's like a weird evolved to be a more evolved person, but like realistically, like it's like when you just you look at anything, like if you stay breeding the same kind of pit bull, like after a while you're gonna have a kind of off pit bull, like mm-hmm. you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with people. Like we need each other. Yeah. Otherwise, we turn into something that's not what we're supposed to be.
Yeah, man. I can tell you, man. Like going to see these musicians, whereas local musicians are big time. Like I needed that. Like seeing. Like I remember. Jay-Z had 444's concert, and I saw that. I brought my friend. It was her first concert. She loved it. And like seeing, like as me growing up listening to Jay-Z, and he was like 47, 48 at the time. For him to go on stage, he didn't have no backup dancer, no backup. He just had a band, and they were underneath the platform. Mm-hmm. And for him, like playing these cuts, like because he was listening to high school, like. Dang, and then him to do it effortlessly. Yeah. Or, when I saw D'Angelo, so this is a cool story. So D'Angelo, I saw him perform, and I got the Black Messiah shirt on, and I didn't realize he was a rock star. Like I knew he was a soul, blues, gospel, but he had the guitar. He was like a rock star. Okay. And it was like on stage. He had one of Prince's guitar players. I think his name was James Johnson or something. And there was another dude. His name's Isaiah Sharkey, right? So this is a pretty interesting story. So I saw D'Angelo 2015. I saw John Mayer like in 2017. He said John Mayer is dope. I don't care what nobody said on stage. Dude, he can play and he can write a song too. Yeah. But he was like all the way from Chicago, Isaiah Sharkey. I was like, okay, cool. So I got to see him twice. So I actually had a patient of mine, and during the massage, I was playing Gary Clark Jr. His song "Our Love" live, which he just has a guitar song that's just mesmerizing. So he was like, "You like the blues?" I was like, "Yeah, I love the blues, man. You know, I'm getting into it. You know, I'm not gonna act like I could just throw names up. But I enjoy it."
Yeah.
So he's like, "Well, there's this group called like New Black Renaissance," and he's like, "They play at this place in Homewood." He's like, "You should check them out."
I've heard of them.
Yeah, and they play like throughout the city. They have like a lot of members who like do stuff with other bands, and he was like, they got this guy Isaiah Sharkey, he's a guitar player. He's dope. I was like, is that the same Isaiah Sharkey played with D'Angelo? He's like, yeah, he co-wrote and co-produced Black Messiah. Wow. So I actually got to meet him, and I took a really cool photo of him, and just that where it's like, all right, you know, I guess that's 6 degrees of separation, right? So yeah. I'm like 4 degrees away from D'Angelo, and somebody who I mean, like.
That, yeah. I mean, and a lot of times it's way closer than that.
Yeah. And, you know, like Voodoo, that album, man, just amazing. Or, case in point, see, this, you're talking about the experience of concerts, right? So, Maxwell, in the 2018, he was at the United Center, right? So, my sister and I went, but she got her ticket before I did. So, she got a ticket right in the front row. And I was like a few seats back. So it's Maxwell Marsh Ambrosius from Floetry, who she just has a beautiful voice. Mm-hmm. So,
man, I haven't heard anyone talk about Floetry in a long time.
Man, like that early 2000s, like people sleeping on that neo soul, man. But hell, I gotta go back to it now. But he was, I've seen Maxwell 5 times. It seems like he was having a lot of fun, mm-hmm. right? And he was taking girls' phones out, taking selfies with it. And so I saw this hand come up, and it had like a white phone. And he took it, and I heard a scream. I thought somebody got shot or something. He took a selfie, and so he took a selfie with my sister's phone. So, and then, you know, you'll Instagram, you say, "Hey, man, that's my sister." "Oh, yeah, you know, cool, man, thanks." And so just that experience of you can't, like, nothing can take that away from you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, my favorite singer took a selfie with my sister's phone.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, and being able to connect with somebody on social media and, like, just saying, like, man, like.
Yeah, I mean, social media is so crazy. Like, Rappers Delight, Sugar Hill Gang, but they can't use their name.
Really?
It was
legal stuff.
Legal stuff for whatever reason. They're called Rappers, or at least one of them's Rappers Delight on Instagram, mm-hmm. and I've reached out to them a couple of times about doing the podcast. It's like wishful dreams, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they've liked a few of my breakdancing videos.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, like, recently, Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas liked a couple of my breakdancing videos. So it's like funny, like how accessible social media's made people.
Yeah, because it broke away the wall. Yeah. It's like you look at like some NBA players, like you could say like LeBron James. He's very accessible because you know, like us being like maybe, you know, in our 30s, we grew up with Jordan. And
yeah, you couldn't find Jordan anywhere.
I mean, you may have saw him out, but like, you know, you see some like LeBron James who connects with people.
Yeah.
And, you know, not to say anything wrong about George, just a different time.
It was just a different era. It was a different way of connecting.
Yeah, man. I just think it's cool, man, that there was so many concerts, man, like just local groups that, man, they can't go see them.
Yeah.
These people have been looking for months to go see, but
people have been planning year tours that now are just on hold. Like, who knows what's going to happen with them.
Yeah, man. But, again, always with hope, man. I think we're seeing, like, all right, so if you go to a museum, they really don't have their legal or their law stuff on display unless it's like in a stone fragment or like a papyrus. But at the end of the day, it's art, right? Mm-hmm. So like our culture defines who we are. Like if you look at, like, you know, if you look at years, of course you see what's going on politically, but then you go say musically what's going on artistically. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you can, like, especially in Chicago, like a lot of people don't realize, like, blues, gospel, house, like R&B, like a lot of it has roots in Chicago jazz. Mm-hmm. And now there's nothing really happening as far as on the organic, the physical aspect. And it's just like, man, like, to meet the artists and to see artists perform live, and people aren't getting that. So it's like when you look at the cultural fabric of Chicago, you're gonna see those. Of course, you have like the the politicians, but you can see the artists. I mean, look at Kanye, right? Like, I remember when Kanye first came out, and the thing is, Kanye, he was like, if you didn't have like a lot of confidence growing up, and Kanye was like your patron saint, man. Like, you like, man, I'm dope, like
Yeah.
and you saw what he like. I think Kanye has like 25 Grammys or something.
Yeah, see, people like to talk about people on that level of, oh, they lost their mind, they've done this, they've done that. But, like, so few people could ever experience that level of fame to, like, and, like, live through it. You know what I mean? So, you got to give credit where credit's due. Like, dude's released some absolute all-time classics.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that, man, like, especially when he first came out, and it was like he was a rapper and a producer, right?
Yeah.
So we never really saw somebody who was like, I'm not gonna say we haven't seen, but no one who was like known equally for their rhymes and their production.
Yeah. There wasn't many before that. Like, I think, I mean, and even, I mean, so you like talk about like Wu-Tang and stuff, but like, dude wasn't like really doing a whole lot of rhyming. It was more production, right? So like,
well, yeah, RZA, he would rap, and he had a couple albums. He did a lot. I think he was more known as the producer and the leader of Wu-Tang.
So like, it's like, even though we knew of them, like, there wasn't anyone that was like, he was so known for, because you would think of him as like the producer, like, you know what I mean? Where like, it's not what you and then like the collaborations, like, it was just a perfect time frame with like Common and Jamie Foxx and Twista and all of that era. I mean, there was a lot going on that time musically around here.
Yeah, man, because I remember when he came out, College Dropout, he had a song, Get 'Em High, with Talib Kweli and Common. And at the time, I think Common's previous album, Electric Circus, which is funny. If you listen to Electric Circus, the production, it sounds like a lot of stuff sounds like Electric Circus now. How like a lot of the synthesized, and how it's like he was talking about subjects a lot of rappers wouldn't talk about. Like, he had a song to him, like he had a friend who was gay. He was like, should he still be cool with him?
He was definitely ahead of his time lyrically, because he was so deep. Like, like, there was a lot of songs people really didn't connect with on his earlier stuff because he was so deep.
Yeah.
But then he would touch upon gems like The Light or something,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Which would just forever transform, in my opinion, that kind of hip hop.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, it's interesting to how like, you need all of that other stuff that maybe other people don't necessarily connect with to have something like The Light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what's interesting about music, is like, you go through spurts of like, you'll create a whole lot of stuff, but maybe nothing really sticks. And then all of a sudden, the gem will come through. But if you weren't already creating and doing all that stuff, like, you would have never had everything together for that to float the way it did.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, man. Because like, listen to Common. I mean, if you don't Common, I think he's been in the game since like '91. And like, listen to his albums, and you see like he always had like a level of maturity about him. And not to knock anybody else, but like, especially him being from like Chicago. And seeing him perform, I saw him perform twice.
Really, I'd love to see him perform. That's definitely something.
He break dances too, and like he jumps. He has too much energy, man. He jump on speakers and he be running around. I'm like, dang! But it was a really cool show. I saw him. I saw him and Ludacris at the House of Blues.
Nice.
And that was real cool, man. And it was because the House of Blues is real intimate. Like, you're in the pit.
Yeah.
You feel it.
Yeah.
Versus like at a larger stadium, you're all the way in the back.
Yeah, to see both of them in a place like that is definitely, because you can get up to the stage. You know what I mean? Like, normally, I mean, maybe not in an event like that, but like.
The screen got hoist you straight up out of there. Yeah, man, but it's like, it's these times, man, where I'm just like, all right, Gary Clark Jr., he got a song called Pearl Cadillac out. And hearing it live.
I haven't heard him live, but.
Dude, God willing, I think in July, He's gonna be at Tinley Park,
Oh
which
yeah.
is just not too far from
No,
here.
yeah, I've been to a few. I think I saw Nas, Tribe Called Quest,
Oh man.
Mos Def.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like Method Man and Redman and like a few others, but like we got there late.
Okay.
But I did get to see Nas, and I had broken my back in like '08. I broke my back. I was riding a bicycle on a ramp and fell off, and I was in a turtle shell, and my buddy brought me, and Nas is like, you know, all you future rappers, producers, MCs, like I was just like you, like, and I just felt like he was like talking to me.
Oh man, that's
You know what I
awesome.
mean?
Man,
Like-
you need those moments, man. You know, speaking of Jay, like when I saw Jay-Z, this was after Chester Bennington from Linkin Park died.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, man, like, you know, check on your people, mental health. He was like, because sometimes they'll tell you they're okay, but, you know, I don't know how it is for women, so I can't speak on it, but I know sometimes as a man, somebody say, you doing all right? Yeah, I'm doing all right.
I'm
And
doing all right.
you say that because you don't want people to ask
Nobody,
questions.
yeah, and nobody wants to hear
Yeah.
all the bullshit either. Like you don't want to be the one everyone comes around like, how you doing? You're like, well, you know, I got this and I got that, and I'm
Right.
all, and it's like, yeah, we all got that, like, but
Yeah.
that's not the question's cordial. It's like a
Yeah.
friendly.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to be like, I'm okay, and
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
How about
But
how about the Bears?
you know what I mean? But it's not healthy.
Right.
You know, but that's the culture. you
Yeah,
know?
but I think it was real cool because I remember that album. And when that album came out, 444, like seeing somebody at that stature and talk about how, you know, he failed as a human being, right? And
Yeah.
you usually don't see somebody at that level talk on
Taking responsibility on that kind of thing, because it's not his fault, but like, could he have done something
Yeah.
different? And we all can.
You're right.
You know, it's like it's really sad. Like, you know, I've had family that's gone through bouts of depression and stuff, and like sometimes things get extreme, and you're like, man, like, what can I do? Like, especially like me, most of my family's 500 miles away.
No,
Like,
really?
I don't get to see them a whole lot.
Man.
And so it's like, what do you do? Like, how do you help? You know what I mean? And so like, I just try to be there when I'm there. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, and try to do what I can for who I can. But it's like, it just doesn't seem like it's ever enough. You know?
Yeah, man, and what's, you know, man, 500 miles away, man, like, and it's crazy with what's happening now. It feels like people who live just a neighborhood away are 500 miles away. 'Cause
Yes.
you can call them on the phone, but you can call somebody 500 miles away on the phone, or you can do a FaceTime. But it's
Yeah.
like, just to be around them, you know, because, you know, that energy, man, like when you're
You
around
know,
people
not
got
too far.
good energy, you know, it's, man, sometimes you could be in a funk, you just start talking to people like, man, or even just like playing a game of basketball or throwing the football around, like, man, I feel better.
Well, that comes back down to that exercise stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's like you need to get the blood moving, and you know, for me, like, since I've been doing music, things have gotten really stagnant. Like, especially like the last like year, it's like all I do is sit in front of screens, and you know, and so it's like I had to remind myself, like, you are also this living organism that needs maintenance. Like,
Yes, yeah. I feel you, man. Cause you know, this morning I was like, but I was like, all right, let me make some tea, let me eat some breakfast, let me do some, you know, exercise a little bit, push-ups and pull-ups. So I was like, man, you know, it's like now I started feeling like better. So I realized that we got to be moving and creating, not just creating on a project, but we are a project, right? So we got to work on ourselves, and then when we keep working on ourselves, what we produce comes from like a balanced place.
Better place, right? Yeah, instead of this drained or depressed or whatever, you've now kind of reset that with flowing energy, and whether that's like maybe you might still be in some sort of dark place, but now the creative juices are flowing, and it's better to have that than just be in the dark place and not be movement and be stagnant, because that's where the darkness can start creeping in and the depression can grow. You know, it's really important to have projects and to stay active and to have goals and dreams. Like, that's one of the biggest when I got into music, I had no more time for like the BS. You know what I mean? It was like once in a while when I get tired, I'll get real down. You know what I mean? But like, for the most part, I stay so busy that I don't have time to think about all of that other stuff. You know what I mean? And so And especially as we get older, like time goes by so much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess it's all relative, but like it just definitely seems like there's not enough hours in the day. So if you get yourself in a funk and you just sit in that and wallow in that,
Man, dude. Ugh.
yeah. So I mean, I've been there. We've all been in those things, but I found for me it's always helpful to get outside, get some fresh air.
Yes.
Get a run in, get a bike in, do something, swim if you can get by a pool. And they're saying that during this time, if you can get into a sauna, which most people don't have access to a sauna, but especially now, like, 'cause gyms are fucking closed. So, like, where are you going to get a sauna if you don't have one in the house? And what kind of rich folks have a sauna?
Yeah.
But something about heat shock proteins is supposed to be so good for you, and beyond just the sickness stuff, but, like, in general. And you get those from a few things. So things like sauna, hot yoga. But I think you'd probably get them running even. You know, like eventually you build up enough heat that you're releasing this sort of stuff, I think.
Yeah, and then if you think about, like, you know, if you go back to like the old ways, like they would have those vision quests you go out in the heat, or like even being extreme
Sweat lodges.
cold.
Yeah, that's an Indian tradition where they do, like, I don't know if they're called hamblekas. There were some sort of, like, it's basically like the ayahuasca trips, but they would be in like a teepee that was just hot, and you would just have like crazy visions, and like there was something detoxifying about that. And that's what they're learning about mushrooms in general now. Mushrooms have a very interesting property in like almost all forms of mushrooms, in that, like, from what I understand, and I'm no fucking scientist, but from what I understand, they help your neurons. They help, like, so, like, people with, what is that, where they start losing their neuropathy?
Yeah,
neuropathy.
Like diabetics and whatnot.
They can get more of their feeling back to their extremities because something with the mushrooms opens those pathways.
Oh, you know, it's funny you say that, man, because there's a mushroom. It's called lion's mane.
Yep, that's one of them.
Yeah, they have some called neuro growth factor 1, and they showed that in mice, it was able to regenerate nerve tissue. And out of all the tissues, I believe nerves grow the slowest. And yeah, man, like, you know, you're reading articles where if you microdose,
that's what I was getting into. Like, people think of, like, these trips, but you don't even have to trip. Like, because now, like, psilocybin is becoming legal in, like, places like Denver, I believe, and, like, other things like that. You can microdose on a level that doesn't get you high, but also is, like, an alternative to, like, antidepressants. So, it's like nature has the answers, and we're over here always trying to chemically alter everything.
Yeah, you know, yeah, man, like, it's weird how supposedly our brains have those chemicals in it, like those tripping chemicals. Like,
yeah, so supposedly when we were born and died, DMT or something like that is present, they think, in the pineal gland and things like that. But we don't, like, most people don't know of that to be total fact. But like, there's something with those experiences. People start seeing people that aren't there. You know what I mean? So, like, there's something to that. I mean, it could just be a flood of all the chemicals, but that's the chemical. Like, if that's the chemical that's flooding and it's creating this experience. And we think about, like, how religion and how evolution kind of happened with humanity. If it came from, like, let's just say, hypothetically, it came from monkeys, right? Like, we evolved from, like, even before monkeys, from, like, some fish. You know what I mean? Like, say we were just single cell organisms and we just kept evolving. And say, let's just throw it in there. God created that organism, and, like, the whole thing is God's plan, right? Like, let's just say, because I don't want to step on anybody's toes, right? Because there's so many different religions. How do you know that the one that's written down about how we were started is the truth? Like, we just don't know, right? Like, and so that's, but beside the point,
right?
So now we're monkeys, right? And we're eating, we're foraging. You know what I mean? And a monkey stumbles upon a mushroom, and now this monkey sees this stuff, like, unexplainable, unknown, totally new. No monkey's ever. You know what I mean? And now this monkey is forever changed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And now this monkey shows the next monkey. And there's this growth path of like, now they're a different thing.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And so when I look at it like evolution in the sense of like, perhaps what we see as God is this, we just get a little taste of what that is through these chemicals. You know what I mean? It's like a doorway and we get a glimpse what's behind there. You know what I mean? And it's like maybe some of it is exaggerated. Maybe some of it is manipulated by our brain. But the overwhelming consensus of it connects you to some sort of divine spiritual aspect of yourself. Is so just in your face that it's like there's got to be something to that, even if it's like at very least just helped us grow as people. Even if we were just always people, I think it's helped us to better understand ourselves and better cope with the fact that we're finite and that this is limited. And
There's a guy, Graham Hancock. He talks a lot about that.
yeah, I've heard some of his stuff. He does that. Doesn't he do that ancient alien stuff?
He was featured on there, but like if you read his stuff, he like archaeologists every so often they find something that kind of pushes back the human timeline a couple thousand years, and it's not speculation. It's like, all right,
This is solid evidence. We just found this.
Yeah.
This is from carbon dated.
Right, and whether you want to say carbon dated is accurate or not, I mean, you got places that are like completely underwater, right? Like civilization. Like there's a place in Turkey. It's called. I remember I learned about it in school. They're like, it's 11,000 years. I was like, whatever, and it was intentionally buried, and like they produced art, and that's another thing, man. Us being artists, you look at these early civilizations. We're studying their art.
Yeah, right. Like we don't know anything about what the civilization was really like.
Right.
We're still amazed by the art and architecture.
Yeah.
When you look at like pyramids and you're like, oh, those blocks are hard to move with the modern day machinery.
Yeah.
Like, how were they?
Yeah, man. Like, it's like if you got Caterpillar and all those companies and John Deere, and you had physicists and scientists and engineers. I mean,
it's still going to be a challenge probably by today's standards.
Yeah, it's say like I'm not saying they couldn't do it, but it'd be very challenging.
And we think we're the most evolved and the most sophisticated and advanced that we've ever been. And so that mindset to me is very primitive.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how many times have we been here?
Yeah, and it's you look at like a lot of the myths, and I mean, I guess you can take for face value. Maybe trying to tell us a story, right? Like Prometheus, fire from the gods. Was it physical fire?
Maybe it was an asteroid.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, I think some scientists they estimated that amino acids may have came from an asteroid. Amino acids are basically building blocks of life. Like that's proteins. No proteins, you have no life.
Yeah. So
wouldn't that be crazy? How like if I guess in a way we are extraterrestrial. If that is true, then we're extraterrestrial.
I have a song that I've been working on for many years. I don't know if I'll ever finish it.
Okay.
But it talks about that and like how we're all just stardust. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're like at our when we die and we all devolve and or not devolve, but disintegrate back into the dust. That dust eventually, this planet will get eaten by the sun, and all those particles will die, and like we're back into the universe again. You know what I mean? Just this little bitty speck of the universe.
Yeah, it's very sobering.
Yeah.
But it also like, you know what? I got a little bit of time on Earth, and let me just do something that's outside of me. And like doesn't mean you gotta create this big. It could be like you're a parent and you gave the best possible life for your child. And you taught your kids how to be good people. Or let's say you had a venue where you had artists come and go, and maybe wasn't really the biggest venue, but the artists say, man, I got my start here.
Well, like that's like the Elbow Room. Like the
Yeah.
Elbow Room isn't like a massive venue, but like I know so many people who have performed at that place. It's a staple, and like without that kind of place, like what happens to the underground music scene?
Oh man, it just, and actually my friend, she performed there. She performed there, and I remember I took some photos there, and like Elbow Room. These, that's another thing about going back to musicians, man. Like, it's one thing to have a dedicated venue, but when you take an empty park of grass
And build something from scratch, right?
and when you see it, and you see how many people are involved, look at movies, man. Like, so when you watch Avengers and you get caught up with CGI, man, usually they're in a room that's maybe might have a certain texture on the floor, but everything's green screen. So like let's say I'm Iron Man, you're Thanos, we're fighting and stuff, and you got a suit on with these balls, and the motion capture, we're fighting. So then, all right, we got that footage. At the end, we got to put the computer graphics on it. You got people who just work on hair and the lighting, right?
Yeah.
And then the backgrounds and the special effects, and you got to put the music in, and like these computers, they have like called rendering years. Like, how many years would it take to render these frames of animation on one computer in years? So they have like these render farms. Yeah, so they have like all these computers linked up, and they're like rendering frames of animation, because if you look at like a movie that came out mid to late 90s, like let's say Independence Day, right? Independence Day was the best movie on earth when I first saw it.
It was pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie.
And then like you look 10-15 years later, you look, okay, the effects are kind of dated, right? But then you look, and not saying it's a bad movie, it's just with technology it dates, right?
Yeah.
But then you look at like something where like the last Avengers Endgame, where they're doing stuff like that you couldn't even dream of doing 10 years ago.
And the level of intense action and detail.
Yeah.
Like, you almost can't even keep up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a bombardment.
Yeah.
But, you look at all those people, well, not all of them, but like a vast majority of people construct sets. They're like out of work. People build stages for events.
Those are like the biggest, though. Like, I'm not as worried about them because they can claim unemployment. They've got SAG, or like a union that's taking care of them, most of them. I'm way more worried about the mom and pop spots like Elbow Room, all the people that work for those type of places. The clubs and bar scene, I think they're hitting it almost the hardest. Just because I see that directly affecting me and others, like where like we can't necessarily, like we have ways, there's still relief, don't get me wrong. It's just not on the level that those people have. They've got unions who fight for them, and like the average bar back is not gonna have anyone fighting for them.
Yeah, and it's like, man, like you think, all right, I just got done work, I want to grab a beer, right? You can't even do that.
Yeah,
and then the thing is, like, all right, so let's think about, I don't know exactly, but let's think about what it takes to get a beer. So first, let's say a microbrewery, which a lot of microbreweries are getting hit hard. So
that's the same thing like the clubs, because their market is people coming in and enjoying the environment.
Yes. So it's like you have a microbrewery, they have a place, they have a distillery, right? So they produce the beer, they bottle it up, somebody ships it to a place, right? An event that's open. So, they do business. Hey, I'll ship you beer. People buy it, drink it. You shoot some money. I don't know exactly how
that might help also offset the cost to keep the actual business open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and now they can't do that, and they can't have people inside. Like people keep like, oh, we're getting money, but like some of these businesses are not gonna make it. And that's the real shame. That's the real disaster of it. Aside from the death tolls and people getting sick, like, this is going to affect the economy in a way that we've not seen in a couple of generations.
Man, like, I know in my lifetime,
Yeah.
We've never seen anything like this. I mean, even after 9/11 happened,
It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And like SARS wasn't even close.
yeah,
Like SARS affected me. I was in choir and we were supposed to go to Canada and perform in Canada, and we didn't get to go, and like they didn't refund us our money, and like
oh man,
it was a bunch of crap. But like so that like affected me, but like not
Yeah.
anywhere near like this. You know what I mean? Like now people can't work. And it's not just me; it's the whole world. Like, and not that SARS was just me, but you know what I mean? Like it's not just I didn't get to go do this. It's like we all don't get to go do anything. You know what I mean?
And that's good you say that, man, because like sometimes, and I had to think about this myself. I was like, man, like you look at everything you can't do, but then think about so many things people can't do, like who aren't working at all. Like let's say people had good jobs and some companies laid off their workforce. Like I know like some automobile manufacturers.
Yeah, my sister just got laid off. She's in a factory, automobile factory type of stuff.
Man, yeah. And like those jobs, I mean,
they're important, and those are to me essential jobs because you need that stuff to keep things going. Like once that shuts down, say that plant shuts down for good.
Yeah, man.
Then what? Then that job goes overseas too, and then we're even further in the hole of dependence.
Yeah, man. I remember when I was in college, I was talking with the teachers. He said like once the economy crashed in '08, he was working in Detroit. So the automobile manufacturer, they took a hit. So if they take a hit, then the supply lines take a hit. So like people who make like door handles and like I don't know, like air filters, like they took a hit. And like a lot of moms.
That trickle down really is true on that end of things.
Yeah.
People are like, trickle down economics doesn't work, and maybe it doesn't, but on it does not work. Like in the sense of like it'll take away from everyone. It may not trickle down and give to everyone like it's supposed to, but once that shit hits up at top, it goes all the way down the line.
Yeah, man. Think like so like let's say there was a mom and pop factory that made guitar strings, right? Mm-hmm. But if the price of steel goes up,
it outprices their profit margin, and because they've only been on a 10% profit margin, let's say anyway, and now they have to close up shop, and now you can't get those quality strings anymore.
Yeah.
And you've got to supplement with some other place, or the price of strings in general goes up a tremendous amount because, it's a weird one. And hopefully this is just a blip, and in a couple months we get back to normal. And
yes.
It's not necessarily, maybe it's a new normal of being more appreciative. Like things have gotten out of control in the fact of like the media and the way people are interacting with each other, and like the cancel culture, and like all like there's a definite like, okay, you probably shouldn't do some of these things. You definitely shouldn't do some of these things some of these people have been doing. But the other swing of it's too far too. Right? Like when can someone be forgiven?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are all actions unforgivable? And like when you start hearing people compare like things that are just uncomparable, they're like, oh, that's like Nazi, or that's like rape, and it's like, well, hold on, there's two very different things at play, and you can't say that this is like that if it has nothing to do with that, just because it makes you feel better and makes people click on your stuff. You know what I mean? And so that becomes a real problem in the fabric of our society, how we are jumping on everyone for every little thing. People are worried to talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but there is the other side of that, of it needed to happen some regard or another, right? But so then that pendulum swings back and forth. And so, like, I do believe that this should be a reset in like, okay, we know where we were at before all of this. There are some things we're overboard, some things, that maybe were overkill, but perhaps we'll take some of this and be like, okay, it wasn't, some of this was, we need to take a step back and remember that we're still people, and that people need to eat, and that just because they make a mistake doesn't mean that they should never be able to work again. And, and also, like, the forgiving nature of people. Like, you wouldn't want to have made a mistake 10 years ago and then it haunt you for the rest of your life. I mean, some mistakes do. I mean, that's just the inevitable truth of it, right? But where is that line? I think the line was pushed too far in one direction. I think this is helping kind of correct it in some ways, like we were talking about, like the gun control issue, like, yeah, we don't want every nut job in the world with a gun out in the streets, but to take away all guns doesn't seem like the right answer either. So it's again that pendulum back and forth, and where does it sit, and where does it like actually do the most good for everybody? And I think that this kind of is that reset that's like, okay, makes us reevaluate what's important, what do we need, what can we do without, what can, you know, what can come of this to be a better tomorrow. That's what I'm trying to look at.
Yes, and you know, if you look at, I always like to think the level of mercy you want. Like, let's say you made a mistake, right? And I don't care who you are, I don't care how tough you are. Everybody wants mercy, especially if they make a mistake. Like, man, that was stupid.
Yeah, especially if they know and they can admit that,
right.
You know.
And for people to show you mercy, then I think if we want people to show us mercy, and we should show people mercy.
Absolutely. Lead by example.
Yeah, and like, you know, just that forgiveness, man. Like, you know, me and my faith, like, I don't want to, you know, be all preachy or whatnot, but I you know, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus, and I believe in forgiveness because, you know, I've been forgiven, you know, and I've forgiven others. And what you do, like, when you forgive, you take the weight of that off. It's off. It's like, all right, we're not saying it didn't happen, but I'm just saying I'm just not going to let it run my life.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold on to it like a stone inside of my body.
Exactly. Because that's
the disease. Yeah. It's disease, and disease turns into literal disease. And so, like, yeah, that's another thing with massage therapy. Like, if I hadn't gone through that sort of thing, I wouldn't have the mindset to be like, oh, there is other issue. Like, what might be affecting me right now isn't necessarily even the root of what's really going on. And to be able to look at yourself with a more objective, you know, and subjective viewpoint, I really have found that valuable. Even though I don't practice massage therapy really anymore, like I have a handful of friends that I'll help out when they need me to. But it's like really just like, you know, like family. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm not like out there like charging people, you know what I mean? But to still be able to do that, to still have that knowledge, and to be able to grow in my life upon that knowledge, it was worth every penny.
Yeah, man. Like, just having that love of compassion, you know, because sometimes, like, you know, when you're young, you kind of like you're turned inward, but it usually takes, like, what really opened up my eyes was like, and when the economy crashed back in 08,
like right after we got out of college,
and you know, that was like the seed. But then, like, a few years later, you know, what we say and what we do, it, like, you know, I'm you know, some like, I'm gonna say it, and I don't care how you take it. It's like look, like, let's really, like, that's one thing I'm working on.
How would you want someone to say it to you?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, there's two ways of saying something that might be the truth, right? You can say it with attitude and with, you know, whatever. Or you can say it with, like, a little bit of openness and honesty and compassion and empathy and be like, hey, this is going to sting, but this is the truth. Rather than being like, well, you should have known.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Because,
Like,
you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, once you get better and,
yeah.
you know, and
it comes from a place of you want them to grow rather than you're trying to put them in their place.
Yeah, and I just, like, because once you get to that point, man, where, like, that level of pride where you kind of raise yourself, we're always going to be in a position, all of us are going to be in a position where it's like, you know, the rug kind of gets pulled from underneath us. So I'm like,
At some point or another.
Yeah, before that happens, let's just, man, like, you know, show more love to people. I'm not saying like you gotta be all hugging on everybody, especially now, which you can't. But, you know, just like, all right.
Daveed said to go show some love. You know? Go give your neighbor a hug.
No. But, you know, just being at the point where you can, all right, somebody wronged me. I'm gonna let it go,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna continue about my business. I'll forgive them.
I might not be able to forget it, and I might not be able to let them back in to do it again.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna hold on to it forever, and I'm not gonna let it affect
Mm-hmm.
how I interact with other people. Like
Yeah.
that's between me and that person, and I can forgive you and I can let it go. But if I let that drag into my future relationships, I'm doing a disservice to them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I feel stronger about nowadays because, um, sometimes we have relationships that will put us in funks that like I would say probably more so like personal relation like romantic relationships have traditionally, if they don't work out, have put me into a funk that I can carry a lot of that. And a good one that I don't know where I saw this. It might have been on like one of those type of like skit shows or something when I was young, like Mad TV or like something like that. But basically, this dude had like a bag. He was carrying around this garbage bag of like all of the negative shit
Mm.
that had ever happened to him. And like every relationship he's getting into, he's trying to shove this bag into
Mm.
the car and like, you know what I mean? Like,
Wow. Yeah.
and it's like we gotta let that go because it's in our way. We can't see. It's in, you know what I mean? Like it's causing discomfort because we're like trying to get around it. You know what I mean? Like you got to
Mm.
deal with it and you've got to address it and let it go. And that's a challenge, man. I don't. I it's people go through therapy. People do all kinds of things to try to do that, but um, yeah, I've always looked at that baggage like that's what it is. It's just like you're carrying around, and I think that that's what I've been doing for like the last few years, and so that's why I say that is like I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to carry my last failures with me through a life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm glad you recognize that, man. Cause yes, it's how you do it. It's kind of like that garbage bag. You just add more stuff and like throw in people's face, but then it takes time, like forgiving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And once those thoughts come back in, you're this, you're this, you're that. That's not coming from a good place, and it's not necessarily like coming from you. It's just our thoughts, and it's like kind of I see that thought is there, but then let me kick it out.
Mm-hmm. I acknowledge it. It's there. I see that it's there, but I'm not going to dwell on it,
Exactly.
and I'm not going to let it define the rest of my actions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then that's how you grow, and then that's how you can teach somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I know, like, I can agree with that. You hold this stuff, but then it's like when you let it go, it's like, man,
You feel lighter. You're
yeah,
not carrying
yeah,
around this bag
yeah.
full of junk, right?
Yeah, so it's burden, and you carry a burden. It
Yeah.
affects,
Yeah.
So that's good, man. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, and I think it's important for all of us, especially now. We've got to learn to simplify. We've got to learn to, because things are just so complicated in life. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy to get overrun, and so it's important to bring it back to the roots. You know what I mean? Remember what is important to you. Remember who's important to you. Spend time with those
Mm-hmm.
people, and try to do what you can for those people because it could be it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, man. Just and then being thankful for no matter what situation you're in, like finding something to be thankful for. Like,
mm-hmm.
okay, you could talk with your friends, talk with your parents, for those people who are working, even if you're not making as much as you'd like, the fact that you're still able to work.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing that kind of hit home too. Is like sometimes you don't get paid as much as you like,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever. And then when all this happens, you're like, well, now I'm not getting paid anything.
Yeah. And then like just being thankful. Man, honestly, like I'll say the number one thing for anybody who's healthy right now, like just being thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
Being thankful that like you can get up and go for a run.
Mm-hmm.
And that because I mean you look at what's happening on TV, or not TV, but just on the news. That health, man. I mean, I'm just so thankful. Anybody who's healthy, I'm thankful for being healthy. I'm thankful for people who are recovering. Like, I mean, just whoever recovered, God bless you, and whoever is recovering, God bless you as well, because this virus doesn't care about your color, your religion, how much money you make,
when you think we're going back to work.
None
of it.
Yeah, it just doesn't care, man. So if you're healthy, man, and you have family members who are healthy, that's to be thankful. Like, you say, all right, look, that's a miracle right there. And just really just focus on, I'm healthy, I'm in right mind. Like, you just got a bottle of water. Thank God you got water.
Yeah, well, because when it all went down, we went to the store and there was none.
Yeah.
There was no toilet paper. There was no paper plates. There was no paper towels. There was, like I said, I haven't been able to find rubbing alcohol in a month. Now you can't find peroxide. I mean, it's been the supply chain has been directly impacted 100%, whether it's just being redirected, whether it's being hoarded, whether it's not being produced. I don't, all of the above. So when you do find, it was amazing when we finally found toilet paper. Like, we were on our last roll.
Oh man, thank God.
And I went into a place and he was stocking the paper towels. I was like, you don't happen to have some toilet paper on there, do you? He's like, nah. I was like, damn. But he's like, but I got some in the back. I was like, oh, for real? Can I get some, please? He's like, nah.
No, dang.
I was like, oh, man. He's like, no, I'm just playing. He went and got me some.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. But, like, it, like, put such a smile on my face. Like, one, that he was able to joke during this time.
Yeah.
And two, that I got some toilet paper. Like,
yeah, because you need it.
It's so funny. Just the simple thing of having toilet paper was, like, made my day.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's the other thing, man. Gas being low. Now, I know in the grand scheme of things that maybe oil prices being this low isn't a good thing for the market, but it's just like, man, gas hasn't been this low since like 2007 or something like that.
So, like, enjoy it, be thankful.
Yeah. That's the thing, man.
Fill up.
Yeah, fill up. And just
get yourself some extra gallons.
Yeah, man. Like, it would be better if it wasn't so contagious. We're like, all right, let's just spend time with family.
Yeah, right? Like, stay in, but you're just worried that you're going to spread it to someone old. Like, you don't want to, like, make you... Like, I've got an older neighbor. She has me, like, put in salt blocks and things like that for her around the house. Like, I felt really scared going to put salt in her shit the other day. It's like, I don't want to be the one to spread this. Like, and you don't know that you have it. Like... Yeah. It's scary. That's super scary. So, like, yeah, that's the worst part of it, is not being able to connect with the people on this kind of level as much anymore,
Yeah.
But then again, it has also helped us to, like, I've noticed that, like, when I go into the supermarket, people are like, hey, how's it going? Like, they might give you a distance still, but there's an acknowledgement that you're there. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a big change from a month ago.
Yeah, man. And, I remember I went to Target and I bought some things. And after that, I was like, thank you. Thank you for what you do. Because, before you go somewhere, I'm just going to pick some up. Okay, here you go. And buy, But it's like, no, thank you. Because
you're still open right now, risking yourself. And I appreciate that. Because you could have been like, nah, this job ain't worth it.
Yeah.
I quit. Like, even though, like, most people can't do that, like, just financially can't do that. There are people who could have just been like, nah. And they're still on the front lines fighting it. And so I thank you guys for all of that. Thank you for the people, like we said before, the first responders, the nurses and doctors, and all of the supply chains keeping America going right now. And even around the world, it's a scary time. So stay safe out there. Stay keeping things clean, and man, I hope to see you guys all doing very well again in the future. Daveed, man, thank you so much for coming, for being on the podcast, man. It's been such a pleasure to catch up with you.
Yeah, I
Uh,
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Do you have anything you want to let the people know?
Just show compassion towards people, not just your family, people like you don't know. And I really believe we will get through this, and I think we'll be better people because of it, because we're showing that level of compassion. And I really thank you for inviting me. Like, I remember when I said, I was like, hey, got a press pass. You were like the first was, hey, let's do an interview. I was like, okay, cool. And it's a new experience for me, and I'm very thankful for that. We got to connect, got to talk, and just hopefully, whoever listens to it, man, if you're at home and you're not really feeling too right, maybe this can be a way to, boost your spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And I do photography, and if you want to take a look at it on Instagram, it's called Polymath Theory. So, or the Polymath Theory, ThePolymatheory. So the Polymath Theory, and it's colorful photos, and then PeaceSum. Check this out, and God bless everybody. Stay healthy.
Well, that's a good place to end it. Have a good one, guys. Thank you.